Title: I fell asleep in a massage chair at the mall. When I woke up, the stores were open, but they weren't selling to humans. Subreddit: r/no sleep. I'm posting this from a burner phone I bought at a gas station 3 towns over. I don't know if they can track IP addresses or if they even use technology the way we do, but I'm not taking any chances. If you're reading this, never linger. If the announcement says the mall is closing, run. It started on a Tuesday. I know, a mundane start to a nightmare. I'd just gotten off a double shift at the warehouse, and I needed to pick up a birthday gift for my niece. The Westfield Galleria, not its real name, but close enough, is one of those dying giants. It was built in the late 90s, all neon tubes, potted palms, and glass elevators. Now, it's mostly vacant storefronts and echoing tile. I was exhausted. My feet were throbbing in my work boots. I found the gift, some overpriced plush toy, and was heading toward the south exit when I saw them, the massage chairs. You know the ones. Black leather, sitting in a cluster near the dead fountain, $5 for 15 minutes. The mall was quiet. It was 8:45 p.m. Closing time was at 9. I figured I had 15 minutes to kill. I shoved a crumpled $5 bill into the slot, the machine hummed to life, and I sank back. The rollers hit my lower back, and it was heaven. I closed my eyes, just for a second, just to rest them. The next thing I knew, the rollers had stopped. I didn't wake up naturally. I woke up because of the cold. It wasn't just chilly. It was the kind of stagnant, deep freeze cold you feel in a meat locker. I sat up, groggy, wiping drool from my chin. Shit, I hissed, reaching for my phone. Dead battery, of course. I looked around. The mall was plunged into a heavy, suffocating darkness. The only light came from the emergency exit signs, cast in a sick green glow on the polished floors, and the moonlight filtering through the massive skylights above. The shadows of the atrium looked like jagged teeth stretching across the ground. It was silent. Not the silence of a house at night where you hear the refrige hum or the house settle. This was a vacuum. No HVAC hum, no distant traffic, just the ringing in my own ears. I stood up, my boots making a loud clack on the tile. The sound echoed, bouncing off the second-floor balcony and returning to me 3 times, each echo slightly distorted. Clack, clack, crack. I froze. That last echo didn't sound like a boot. It sounded like a knuckle cracking. "Hello?" I called out. "Security? I fell asleep." My voice sounded small, swallowed by the vastness of the empty concourse. I started walking toward the south exit. I tried to keep my pace steady, fighting the urge to run. It's just a mall, I told myself, just a big empty building. Paul Blart is probably eating a donut in the office and laughing at the cameras. I reached the glass doors. They were locked. Not just locked, chained from the inside. Thick, heavy industrial chains wrapped through the handles. That didn't make sense. Fire code requires push bar exits to be functional from the inside. I shoved against the glass. It didn't budge. I looked through the door. The parking lot was empty. My car was the only one there, sitting under a flickering lamppost about 100 yards away. I banged on the glass. "Hey, is anyone out there?" Nothing. I turned back to the mall. I'd have to find a service corridor or a loading dock. Those usually had push-bar exits that didn't chain shut. As I turned, the lights flickered. They didn't come on fully. They buzzed, low, angry insect hum, and bathed them all in a dim amber twilight. It was the kind of lighting you see in old sodium vapor street lamps. It washed out all the color, turning everything sepia and gray. Then the music started. It wasn't over the PA system. It sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. It was a slowed-down, warped version of The Girl from the Ipanema. The pitch wavered, sliding down into a bass-heavy groan before snapping back up. Tall and tan and young and lovely. And then the shutters began to rise. All around me, The metal security gates of the stores were rolling up. Clatter, clatter, clatter. It was a mechanical wave of noise, starting from the far end of the wing and rushing toward me. GNC, The Gap, Foot Locker, Bath and Body Works. They opened, but they looked wrong. The Bath and Body Works didn't smell like vanilla and cucumber. As the gate rose, a stench hit me, the smell of formaldehyde and copper. The bottles on the shelves weren't colorful. They were uniformly gray glass, filled with a thick, viscous black liquid. I backed away, moving toward the center of the atrium, trying to keep a 360-degree view. "Okay, this is a prank," I muttered, my voice trembling. "Hidden camera show, you got me." That's when I saw the first shopper. He, or it, stepped out of a store called Lids. He was wearing a suit that was 2 sizes too big, the fabric bunching around his wrists and ankles. He was tall, maybe 7 feet, but he walked with a severe hunch. He moved with a jerky, stop-motion quality, like a video buffering. He walked to the center of the walkway and stopped. He didn't look at me. He just stood there, facing the opposite storefront. Then another one came out of the Sephora. This one was female, wearing a floral dress that looked like it was made of upholstery fabric. She glided more than walked. More of them emerged, dozens. They were coming out of every store. They came all around me. The metal security gates of the stores were rolling up. Clatter, clatter, clatter. It was a mechanical wave of noise, starting from the far end of the wing and rushing toward me. GNC, The Gap, Foot Locker, Bath and Body Works. They opened, but they looked wrong. The Bath and Body Works didn't smell like vanilla and cucumber. As the gate rose, a stench hit me, the smell of formaldehyde and copper. The bottles on the shelves weren't colorful. They were uniformly gray glass, filled with a thick, viscous black liquid. I backed away, moving toward the center of the atrium, trying to keep a 360-degree view. "Okay, this is a prank," I muttered, my voice trembling. "Hidden camera show, you got me." That's when I saw the first shopper. He, or it, stepped out of a store called Lids. He was wearing a suit that was 2 sizes too big, the fabric bunching around his wrists and ankles. He was tall, maybe 7 feet, but he walked with a severe hunch. He moved with a jerky, stop-motion quality, like a video buffering. He walked to the center of the walkway and stopped. He didn't look at me. He just stood there, facing the opposite storefront. Then another one came out of the Sephora. This one was female, wearing a floral dress that looked like it was made of upholstery fabric. She glided more than walked. More of them emerged, dozens. They were coming out of every store. They came in all shapes, but the proportions were always slightly off. Arms too long, necks too thick, knees that seemed to bend backward. I ducked behind a kiosk selling phone cases. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought they'd hear it. The music swelled. "Go walking, and when she passes." The male shopper in the suit turned his head. He didn't turn his body, just his head, rotating it a full 180 degrees to look behind him. He didn't have a face. Where his eyes, nose, and mouth should have been, there was just smooth, pale skin, like a mannequin. But in the center of the face, there was a vertical slit stitched shut with thick black thread. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the kiosk. I pressed my mouth over it. The shoppers began to mingle. They didn't speak. They made sounds, wet clicking sounds, like someone stirring macaroni and cheese. They bumped into each other and didn't apologize. They just rebounded like billiard balls. One of them, a child-sized thing wearing a tuxedo, walked up to the Bath and Body Works. It picked up one of the gray bottles, unscrewed the cap, and poured the black sludge onto the floor. Then it got down on its hands and knees and began to lap it up with a tongue that looked like a measuring tape. I had to move. I had to get to the loading docks behind the food court. I waited for a gap in the crowd. The amber light was flickering, giving me moments of near total darkness. Bzzz, dark,
bzz, light. I moved on the dark. I crawled on my stomach, dragging myself across the cold tile, keeping the kiosk between me and the thing in the suit. I reached a planter box filled with dead ferns and rolled behind it. I was now about 50 yards from the escalator that led up to the food court. I peeked over the rim of the planter box. The mall was filling up. There were hundreds of them now. And the stores were changing. The sign for Radio Shack flickered and changed to Signal Lost. The mannequins in the window of the clothing store were banging their hands against the glass from the inside, their plastic faces twisted in screams of absolute terror. I realized then that the mannequins weren't the monsters. The mannequins were the merchandise. I needed to make a run for it. The escalator was clear. I took a breath. 1, 2, screech! The PA system squealed with a feedback loop so high-pitched I clamped my ears over my head. The shoppers all stopped instantly. They froze mid-step, mid-gesture. A voice boomed over the speakers. It sounded like a wood chipper trying to speak English. "Attention shoppers! A fresh item has been located in the south wing. Clearance prices on all organic matter." Every single head in the atrium snapped toward the planter box. The vertical slits on their faces tore open. There were no teeth, just rows of vibrating fleshy needles. I didn't think. I ran. I bolted from behind the planter, sprinting toward the escalator. Behind me, a sound erupted that I can only describe as a stampede of wet meat, slapping, squelching, tearing. I hit the stairs of the escalator, taking them 3 at a time. My lungs burned. I risked a glance back. The thing in the oversized suit was on all fours, galloping like a wolf, its limbs flailing wildly, but propelling it forward with terrifying speed. It was closing the distance. I reached the second floor, the food court. It was a nightmare buffet. The Sbarro counter was serving piles of steaming gray ash. The Panda Express was filled with writhing maggots. And behind the counters, the servers, they were fused to the equipment. The girl at the smoothie place had a blender where her hand should be, spinning with bloody slush. I scanned the walls. Exit, exit, exit. There, next to the restrooms, a gray metal door with a small window. I sprinted past the tables. A shopper sitting at a booth, a woman with a beehive hairdo, lashed out as I passed, her arms stretched like rubber, elongated and snapping at my ankle. I jumped, feeling her fingers brush my boot heel. I tumbled, rolling across the floor, crashing into a trash can. I scrambled up. The suit thing was at the top of the escalator. It let out a shriek that shattered the glass sneeze guard of the buffet line. I threw my shoulder against the gray door. Locked. No, no, no! I screamed, kicking it. I looked around for a weapon, a metal chair. I grabbed it. The suit thing was 20 feet away. It rose to its hind legs, towering over me. The slit on its face was pulsing. I smashed the chair against the door handle. The metal bent, but the door didn't open. The monster lunged. I dropped to the floor. It sailed over me, crashing into the wall with enough force to crack the drywall. I scrambled toward the kitchen of the Sbarro. If I could get to the back, maybe there was a delivery chute. I vaulted the counter. The server, a man whose torso was merged with the pizza oven, his skin bubbling and red, turned his head toward me. Pepperoni or skin? I grabbed a pizza cutter from the counter. It was dull, greasy, better than nothing. The monster suit was recovering. It squeezed itself over the counter, its bones cracking as it compressed its body to fit. I ran through the kitchen. The heat was unbearable. It smelled of burnt hair. There, the back door, a heavy steel door with a push bar. I hit it with everything I had. It opened. I stumbled out into a long concrete service corridor. The air here was cooler, silent. I slammed the door shut behind me and looked for a lock. There was a deadbolt. I threw it. Thud! The thing hit the door from the other side. The metal warped outward. Thud! I ran down the corridor. It seemed to stretch on forever, lined with flickering fluorescent tubes. Pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping that same black fluid. I ran for what felt like miles. My sides stitched. My legs felt like lead. Finally, I saw a set of double doors at the end. Above them, a red exit. I burst through them. I was back in the atrium. I stopped, my momentum nearly sending me toppling over the railing. I was on the second floor, looking down at the massage chairs where I had started. No, that's impossible. I had run in a straight line away from the atrium. Below me, the shoppers were milling about, but they were calm now. They were looking up, all of them, hundreds of faceless things staring up at me on the balcony. They started clapping. It was a slow, wet applause. Slap, slap, slap. The PA system crackled. Customer assistance needed on level 2. The subject is resisting the sale. The floor beneath me began to vibrate. I looked down. The tiles were softening. They were turning into a thick, gray paste. My boots were sinking. I pulled my left foot free, losing the boot. I pulled the right one. I needed to get to the skylight. There was a maintenance ladder attached to one of the structural pillars near the cinema entrance. It led up to the catwalks beneath the glass roof. I pulled myself out of the sinking floor and ran for the pillar. The shoppers on the first floor were climbing. They didn't use the stairs. They simply walked up the walls, defying gravity, their limbs sticking to the surface like gecko feet. I reached the ladder and started climbing. I'm not good with heights. I never have been. But the fear of falling was nothing compared to the fear of being caught. I climbed past the second floor, past the decorative banners, up into the dusty gloom of the rafters. I looked down. The walls of the atrium were covered in them, a swarm of suits and dresses and distorted limbs crawling upward. I reached the catwalk. The air up here was hot and stale. The skylight was right above me. I took the fire extinguisher I found mounted on the catwalk railing. I swung it upward, smashing it against the reinforced glass. Clang! It didn't break. The first shopper, the one in the suit, vaulted over the railing onto the catwalk. He was 10 feet away from me. I swung again. Crack! A spiderweb fracture appeared. The monster lunged. I didn't swing at the glass. I swung the extinguisher at the monster. It connected with a sickening crunch against its shoulder, knocking it sideways. It teetered on the edge of the catwalk, its needle mouth gibbering. It reached out a hand to grab me. I kicked it, right in the center of its faceless head. It fell. It didn't scream. It just plummeted silently, crashing into the fountain 3 stories below. I turned back to the glass. Smash! Shards rained down on me. Cold, fresh night air poured in. I climbed out onto the roof. The sudden silence of the outside world was shocking. Crickets, distant highway noise, wind. I scrambled across the gravel roof toward the side of the building where the fire escape ladder was. I didn't look back. I slid down the ladder, jumping the last 10 feet. I hit the asphalt of the parking lot and rolled. Pain shot up my ankles. I was still missing 1 boot, but I didn't care. I sprinted to my car. I fumbled with my keys, dropped them, screamed, picked them up, and jammed them into the door. I threw myself inside and locked it. I looked at the mall entrance. The glass doors were clean. The chains were gone. The lights inside were the standard safety lights. No amber glow, no monsters, just a dark, empty mall.
I started the car and peeled out of there, driving 90 miles an hour until I hit the interstate. I didn't go home. I drove until the gas light came on. I checked into a Motel 6 3 towns over. I thought I was safe. I thought I had escaped. But this morning, I woke up in the motel room. I went to the bathroom to wash my face. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were bloodshot. My skin was pale, standard shock stuff. But then I looked at my shirt. There was a tag attached to the collar, a plastic security tag, the kind they put on expensive jackets. It wasn't there when I went to sleep. I grabbed a pair of scissors from the motel desk and tried to pry it off. It wouldn't budge. It was fused to the fabric. I looked closer at the tag. There was a barcode, and under it, text. Item, soul. Status, on layaway. I cut the shirt off. I burned it in the motel parking lot. But an hour ago, I felt an itch on my back. I looked in the mirror, craning my neck. There's a barcode tattooed on the back of my neck. It wasn't there yesterday. And 10 minutes ago, I got a text on this burner phone. I haven't given the number to anyone. The text says, "Payment plan initiated. Collection begins at sundown." The sun is going down in 20 minutes. I'm in the middle of nowhere, but I can hear music, very faint. Tall and tan and young. It's coming from the vents. If you're reading this, don't go to the mall after dark. Don't use the massage chairs. And if you hear the music, don't run. Just hope you're not on the clearance rack.